Hello and welcome to this chess versus the computer video. So if you're worried about cheaters, too many people cheating in chess, I guess you could play the computer. I haven't, well, I shouldn't say I haven't had many games against cheaters lately. I did have some points given back to me on chess.com recently because a person was caught cheating. But it's hard to tell. Somebody may just use a few cheating moves in the game and not get caught. So if you're worried about that, you can just play against a bot or chess computer on chess.com. So I'm playing against a 2300 rated bot named Arjun. So let's see how it goes here. He played G3, an interesting choice to begin with. Usually I play the Caro-Kann with black. So I guess we could go here with D5, grabbing control of the center. Then I'll play this Caro-Kann-like opening here. Bring our knight up. And a lot of times you want to bring this bishop out. But I'm worried it could be attacked. If I bring it out to here, and no matter what, we'll bring that bishop out. Already there's a threat of it being attacked here. So we'll just go there, give an escape hatch for our bishop. And now, I don't know if this is such a great move, developing the bishop and blocking their pawn. All right, I'm going to just bring my other pawn up, fortify my D pawn, get ready to bring my E pawn out. Now I'm under attack here. So what now? They are really pushing an attack. I guess I'll go all the way back. Now I could, normally you want to develop, look at this, my opponent has 4 pieces developed and I only have 2, so I probably need to get some pieces developed before I try and start any kind of an attack here by jumping here and attacking this. So I will just bring my bishop out. I could get ready to castle, although I was worried about him pushing forward here, but he's castled on the king side. So further pushes may be problematic for him. And once again, I should go ahead and just continue development. And remember that in your own games, how important it is, especially for you beginners out there, to develop pieces. You want to get all your pieces developed, unless there's some extenuating circumstance where you can gain material. But in general, you want to bring all your pieces up. So I have 1, 2, 3 developed. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, and castling 5 development moves. So I'm behind by 2 tempos. All right. So the obvious move is to just go ahead, develop the other knight. And now we have an attack over here. So I probably should go ahead and equalize space on the queen side over here by playing that move. And a brave move here, attacking. So I'm going to go after the pawn. Now we have a pin. I could break that pin by moving my bishop back, which is what I think I should do here. We'll go ahead and break that pin, but now what does this do? I guess it's a threat of pushing this pawn forward. And now I could attack. Could jump forward and attack. Forking, trading off pieces. You know, this is a higher rated computer opponent, so perhaps I should be trying to trade off some of the attacking pieces. And I don't think I want a castle now. I may keep my king in the center because this rook has a nice half-open file on the H file here. So I think I'm going to jump up here, trade off some of this attacking material, and I have a little bit of a cramped position as well. So let's go ahead and handle that. All right, so I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just attack, fork the knight. Okay. All right. Well, now I have to think about this. I could double his pawns up. That is a possibility. But then I could be left with a weakness, this backwards pawn here. All right. Well, another option, this could be interesting. If I take, my opponent takes, now this pawn will be under attack. I could just reposition my knight, and then that would be protected for the moment. Maybe that would work and give me time to bring my bishop up, threaten to take out his piece, go after this, and have some threats up there. So let's try that. Now I have to reposition this knight. Oh, and of course he does the same. Huh. All right. I could just... Could just immediately bring my bishop up and target that pawn now. The problem is if my opponent gets a counterattack, maybe pushes this rook up, then swings it over here, piles up on this, that could be an issue. All right. So this is the turning point in the game. What would you do here? What is best? Also, the queen could just, instead of all that, the queen could just immediately jump down here and then get ready to bring the rook in behind. And Bobby Fischer says when you get a piece advanced into your territory, you need to immediately try, well, maybe not immediately, but you need to work hard to get that piece out of your position. Hmm. If he goes after this, well, I guess another problem would be, oh, wait, if the queen goes down here, I could drop back here and attack his queen and his knight at the same time and threaten a fork. If he captures, my queen recaptures, and then we're protecting. But I don't know, that's still looking kind of dangerous. All right, I need to make a decision so the video doesn't go on forever here. What to do, what to do. And that's the issue. If you think too long, you're thinking wrong. Not always, but it could complicate things. You overthink things and then make the wrong move. All right, what should I try to do here? Just immediately go after this, perhaps? Maybe I need to Wow, yeah, this is the turning point of the entire game. I'm sorry I'm taking so long, but I need to figure out if he attacks down the open B file, how much of a problem that's going to be. And he might have a threat like this as well, capturing this pawn. Well, if he does that, I mean, I guess I could just go ahead and capture. Oh, but then he would have a fork this way, so that's not too good. All right. All right, maybe I bring my knight up. Bring the knight up here. Threaten to take. Take. Yeah, that's a lot of arrows all over the place. I apologize. But if I go up here, what if he attacks me? And then I attack his queen. He could try to protect. Then my knight is kind of trapped. So maybe I attack him immediately. If I go there, he could go here. Oh man. I'm thinking I should just go here. So let's do that. Okay, so now he's protecting that. Let's target that knight. Target his defender. Now, should we jump our knight forward into a better position? All right, now maybe we can go after this, grab the pawn and threaten a mate. Does that work? Also, wow, okay. I think I have a good attack going, but I need to be very careful here. The option could be to take the knight out. If the bishop captures, our queen captures, and then we're threatening a mate. So maybe that works. Is there a way to stop that? Now, if we take the knight and they capture or recapture with the bishop and we go here, I don't think there's a way they could stop us. So that looks like that works. All right. Before I pull the trigger, I better take one more quick look at this. I think that's what we have to do. So let's knock it out. Oh, he decides to do that move. Very interesting. All right, well, we can still threaten a mate with our knight. So if we go here, I don't think he can stop us now. All right, now we have to be careful because if we take the bishop, then what? Then I think we're good. And then it's just mate. All right, well, that was an interesting game. I'm sorry if it drug on a little bit. I'll do the game review and see what our accuracy percentage was, and then maybe we can do a little analysis. So, had a win there in 23 moves. I'll take that against a 2300 rated computer. You know, is that accurate, that rating? I don't know. I mean, I would imagine if I played a 2300 chess master, I would probably have more difficulty than what we had happen in this game. So, Let's put up the game review and see what the accuracy rating is here. Looks like, yes, the computer only played at a 65.1% accuracy rating. To me, that seems a little bit low for a 2300 rated computer, and 85.7 was my accuracy rating. It looks like I had one great move, nothing, no brilliant moves, and the bad moves. My opponent had 7 inaccuracies, I had 5, but they had 4 mistakes, and I didn't have any mistakes, misses, or blunders. And yes, it says the computer played at a 1700 level here, and I played at 2350. In the opening, 79.6% accuracy for the computer in the opening. I played at 92.2, and then 51.6 in the middle game versus 78.7. So this can be helpful if you play against the computer and then you go back over the game. Here it looks like white just gave away, the game was even, and then I got an edge, and it just kept growing until the end. In the end there, I must have, there's a few dips here, where maybe I overlooked some things, but I held the edge until the mate at the end. All right, let's pull up the computer analysis. Since this was a short game, I would always recommend, if you are playing games, whether it's against the computer or against people, review your games first without the computer. Now, because I'm doing this video, I'm just going to do it with the computer. But on your own, try and go over the game by yourself without computer help and see what you can figure out. Maybe write down a few notes on the moves that you thought were good or bad and some of the combinations. And then, after you've thoroughly looked at it on your own, then you can use the computer, and you'll probably learn more that way. All right, here we go. So in this game, it looks like G3, that was an interesting way to begin the King's Fianchetto opening. This could go into a King's Indian attack or some other, there are other variations that this could transpose into. So D5, usually it's a good idea to grab the center, but I figure if they're going to fianchetto the bishop, then my pawn will kind of slow things down, especially when I push the other pawn up to protect it, and then push this pawn and make a triangle here and fortify the center. So knight develops, and now we have the King's Indian attack. I play c6 here. We're still in book moves. And now, because of this d4 move, we have a transposition to the queen's pawn opening Zukertort variation. So just developing moves. And now we've transposed once again to the queen's pawn opening pseudo-Catalan variation. That's something to be aware of if you're playing one opening and it's possible for it to transpose or change into other variations. You have to be careful that you don't go into an opening that you're not familiar with and your opponent is, or vice versa. You could use that strategy to transpose from one opening into one that you're more familiar with, and hopefully that'll help you play a little bit better. So an inaccuracy here, c4 would have been better. A lot of times in queen pawn openings, it's good to push that c pawn, but not all openings do that. The Jabava London system plays this knight to c3 move and then brings the bishop out to here. That's a different opening, but they recommended c4 because now black has a slight edge. And it looks like the only move that keeps an edge for me is if I would have played h6 here to prevent that bishop from being able to attack my knight, which that didn't happen anyway. So I developed, that's still a good move. Now the game's about even. We have h3, the possibility of an attack. So I finally play this move. The computer says that's excellent. We have, yeah, I thought that was a bad move when I saw it in the game. Generally, you don't want to bring a bishop out in front of this e pawn. You're blocking that e pawn in. You'll have to move that bishop again anyway to be able to develop your e pawn, and that would be even more true if you were not deciding to fianchetto, because then if your bishop needed to come out along this diagonal, you would really be blocking that bishop in. All right, e6, the best move in the position, and now we notice black is ahead by the equivalent of a pawn, even though material is equal. An attack on the bishop. So I'm going to retreat back. This move was best. If I retreated to g6, there's a possibility of the knight attacking, and then maybe this pawn pushing forward, gaining space here on the king side. So bishop develops. I develop my bishop, so we're just finishing our development. And this is interesting. A move that looks okay ends up being an inaccuracy. Apparently, knight to e5 immediately would have been better, because that would allow, unless I capture, but if I do that, the other pawn could capture and chase my knight. It would allow white to gain space on the king side. If this knight jumps forward, then the pawn can jump in here, and white will just be gaining space, kind of a pawn storm, which generally you don't want to throw your pawns forward in a pawn storm when you have your king on that side of the board. But there is a bishop helping defend, and the other bishop is nearby. It could drop back to f2, and the bishops could help defend the king. So, that could be an option to create that pawn storm. All right. Knight develops, the best move in the position, and now we have space being gained on the queen side. So it looks like a5. Computer said that was best, but now it's kind of undecided. It changed its mind. Now that I played that move, a5 is an inaccuracy. What would have been better? Queen to c7. And I also thought about, is there a possibility? Would I have time to bring this bishop back, then bring my queen here, and threaten some mate up here? I would have to get rid of this knight, though, which is protecting that. But I thought that would just take too long to play all those moves out. And generally, in the opening, you want to just get all your pieces developed and off the back rank, except for your rooks. Usually they stay on the back rank, of course, for a while. All right. Pawn push. And a mistake here. Knight to e1 would have been better. Getting that knight out of the way and allowing the f pawn to push forward and gain space. So I capture, although the computer recommended knight to h5 instead, and I had not even looked at that possibility. So if I would have jumped up here with knight to h5, that could give me an option of, oh wow, okay. Yeah, if I would have played knight to h5 instead, then I could think about jumping up here, attacking the bishop and this pawn at the same time. All right. We have a recapture, but look at the score. At this point, I'm over 2.5 points ahead, even though material is even. Let's look at development. I have 4 pieces developed. My opponent has 4 pieces developed. Well, 5 if you count castling. But I guess you could almost say this rook is developed on the half-open file here since my h-pawn is gone. All right. I decide to break the pin. The computer doesn't like that because I moved a piece again before I finished development. Queen to c7 was recommended. Yeah, I guess queen to c7. And that's another great example of how you need to develop all your pieces. So let's take a look at that. So I should have just, instead of breaking the pin that way, I should have just moved out of the pin and developed a piece at the same time. So that would have been better. Here the recommendation is what? Rook to e1. So you're telling white to start developing pieces. You put the rook behind a pawn that you plan to push forward. So, just another great example of do not move a piece twice. It's better to develop all your pieces before you start moving them twice, unless you have a good reason not to do that. Okay, this, obviously they want to push that pawn, but this is an inaccuracy. E3, it looks like, would have been better. So knight to e4, this is an inaccuracy. Bishop to f5 would have been better. So bishop. Oh, wow. Huh. I guess I didn't really look at that move. If I go here, then, I threaten this pawn with the rook and the bishop. The pawn could just push forward, protecting, and the bishop and knight would be protecting it. So we could take a look at that. If we go here, what do they recommend? Queen to c1. Now you're moving your queen again because why? Or no, e3 is another recommendation. Just pressing the pawn forward. All right, back to the game. We had queen to b1. I jumped my knight forward, and I was thinking, well, if my knight is taken, my bishop can recapture. And instead, we have a trade here of his bad bishop for my good one, because my good bishop was on the opposite colored squares of all my pawns here in the center, whereas his dark squared bishop was kind of blocked by this pawn. Especially if this pawn decides to move forward, it would be a pretty bad bishop. Okay, the pawn moves forward in inaccuracy. It would have been better to just go ahead and capture, which is what I thought my opponent would do. So, if my opponent captures, I would just go ahead and recapture. And now what? Rook to a3. Oh, wow, that's an interesting rook lift. And then if I were to knock out the knight, the rook could swing over. And for me, they recommend rook to h6. Maybe getting ready to swing my rook over and line it up on the king, perhaps. But in the game, we had this h-pawn push forward to h4. And now I decide to capture an inaccuracy. It looks like g5 would have been better. Wow, g5. So g5. But what if they capture? I guess this could potentially open up some lines in front of the king. The best move, according to the computer, for white is queen to e1. Queen to e1. And then I should just push forward and attack the knight. what happened in the game? We had h4. I trade off, doubling his pawns over here. And now I thought, well, I better improve the position of my knight. But apparently, oh, wow. I should have instead pushed my pawn to b6 where the knight would be defending it. But then there could be a possibility of them jumping forward, threatening to capture. You know, if his knight jumps forward, he would be targeting my knight when it was still here on d7, defending that pawn that I would push. So we didn't play that in the game. In the game, I jumped my knight forward. White tries to improve the position of their knight. That's an inaccuracy. Queen up to b3 would have been better. So now I play bishop to f5, but knight to e4 immediately would have been better. So I should have jumped up here with the threat of what? Going after that, maybe. Oh, well, I guess also by moving that, my queen would be able to line up there and threaten a mate, which is kind of what happened in the game. So we had knight to e5. I reposition my bishop. The rook drops back to defend because now the rook was attacking the h4 pawn. That's an inaccuracy. Knight to f3, or excuse me, just f3 would have been better, giving that king maybe an escape hatch to run towards the center. But now bishop to e4, although bishop to g4 is preferred. And I don't know if I like that, because if I played bishop to g4, there's a possibility of dropping or going here and attacking if I had my bishop on g4. Oh, but if that happens, I could pick off this pawn and attack the rook. Okay. So the rook moves to defend this pawn, I guess. Maybe give the king some breathing room. Best would have been knight jumping forward, but then I could have traded off bishops here and then, you know, gone after this pawn. All right. The knight jumps into the game, but the computer does not like that. Taking the knight immediately would have been better. So if I take the knight and the bishop takes, my rook could capture. I don't know. This move turned out to be pretty decent. So here, queen to b6 is the best move. And I was kind of waiting for some move like this. You know, thinking that knight could jump up there and, you know, go after this. If I capture, you know, the queen could capture with a fork. And I don't know. I thought that looked really dangerous. But in the game, another mistake here, and you know, this is really a losing mistake. Now I'm 6 points worth of material ahead, the equivalent of that, even though we're still even. So I finally capture that knight. We have a pawn pushing forward. That's a mistake, leading to mate in 3. So better would have been what? Queen takes b7. What? Well, then I would just pick off the queen. You know, and I guess the rook could move over and attack my queen. That would buy my opponent some time, but I would just be so far ahead in material then. All right, what other options are there? Instead of that, queen takes b7. It's just not looking good. It looks like no matter what, I'm going to be winning here. So they push the pawn. The best thing here apparently is queen to h4, which I found because we were threatening a mate in 1. So we have the block. Now we just go ahead and capture that, renewing the mate threat here. So what is the option? There's not really anything they can do. If they move their rook, well, then I'm just going to check and then swing over here. If the king runs to there, and it would be a mate anyway. So the game ended with capture and mate. 23 moves. So not bad, but for a 2300 chess bot, my opponent did have some mistakes, probably more than a 2300 level would play. But, as I said, if you're worried about playing people and cheating online, because I guess that's a serious problem these days, you can just play some chess bots, play the computer a few games. You'll still get some practice in, although computers play a little bit differently than a person would. When a computer's at a lower setting, it'll make some tough moves and then just throw out a mistake that maybe a person would not make, especially a 2300 player. I don't think there would have been so many mistakes. Anyway, this game was fun. Thank you for watching. Feel free to leave comments. As always, I love hearing from viewers and subscribers. Let me know what you think. Have you had trouble with chess cheating in your own games? Do you use the computer very often? Let me know. Also, like and subscribe to support the channel if you haven't already. So thank you for watching and have a super chess day.